heroes have arrived in Clash Royale, and today I'm revealing the top 5 best decks for every hero. Starting off, we have the hero Mini Pekka. At number 5 with this minor poison deck. This deck was made popular by the 3-time Clash Royale world champion Mohamed Light. It has great outplay potential and can beat even the hardest of matchups. The hero Mini Pekka is really useful in this deck because it can wipe out tanks instantly. On offense, it's a huge threat because your opponent will always have to look out for the hero Mini Pekka's ability. The Miner plus Wall Breakers push is your main offensive push, and it can force your opponents into a negative elixir trade every time. Pair the Miner with Poison whenever you get a good opportunity. The Goblin Hut acts as a reliable defensive building. To counter air threats, you have the Minions, which provide cheap defense. Use the Skeletons and Barbarian Barrel to cycle cards quickly. Play this deck passively, react to your opponent's plays, and try to get consistent chip damage throughout the match. At number 4, we have Hog Rocket Cycle. This is one of the classic Hog Rider decks that has stood the test of time. The hero Mini Pekka synergizes really well with this deck because it can force out counters to your Hog Rider. The Princess in Bridge and Rocket Cycle are your secondary ways to get damage. They are kinda annoying plays, but they really work. Pair the Hog Rider with Ice Spirit and Bats sometimes to ensure an extra hit or two. The Ice Golem can be used to tank for your Hog Rider, as well as to kite enemy troops on defense. The Mini Pekka is your main tank killer, so you need to protect it at all costs. Play this deck a bit aggressively because it can struggle on defense against heavy beatdown pushers, but if you keep pressurizing your opponent correctly, they will never be able to build a good push. At number 3, we have Miner Archer Queen Cycle. This is the best minor poison deck in Clash Royale at the moment. The Archer Queen adds an extra layer of both offense and defense to this deck. She can wipe out hordes of pushes by herself on defense, and on offense, she can take down an entire tower on her own if you activate her ability on time. The Mini Pekka can one-shot enemy troops. Pair it with a cannon, and you can counter any beatdown push in a matter of seconds. The cannon evolution in the log can help you take down swarms. Always look for poison value because that is very important chip damage on the opponent's tower. Keep cycling your Miner fast using your cheap cards like Ice Spirit and Skeletons. This will maintain pressure on your opponent, and they will always be forced to react rather than attack. At number 2, we have Royal Giant Cycle. Possibly the highest skill deck in Clash Royale, Royal Giant Cycle has the potential to beat any matchup in Clash Royale. Now with the hero Mini Pekka, this deck is going to be even better. The hero Mini Pekka can destroy whatever is trying to counter your Royal Giant. Use the Evolved Hunter to immobilize the opponent's counters so that your Royal Giant can get a few extra hits on the tower. The Fisherman is the best card to synergize with the Royal Giant. Heavy hitters like Pekka or Evolved Mega Knight can counter your Royal Giant easily, but by using the Fisherman, you can pull those troops away from the Royal Giant. Use the Lightning Spell to take care of any buildings or ranged troops. If played right, this deck can gain you a lot of trophies. And if you want to reach a new personal best this season, then hit that like and subscribe button. At number 1, we have this Golem Beatdown deck. This is an extremely offensive deck which can literally 3-crown you in a single push. The Mini Pekka and Evolved Witch form a deadly push behind the Golem, and the Evolved Baby Dragon boosts the push by increasing its speed. Keep stacking as many elixir collectors as you can to gain a huge elixir advantage. If you manage to get more than one collector on the field, it's basically game over for your opponent. You need to defend very cheaply with this deck and focus on building a big push. Use your tower's hit points as a resource. Berserker and Barbarian Barrel can be used for cheap defense. Vines is the ultimate game changer on offense. It can immobilize up to 3 enemy troops. This lets your Mini Pekka and Witch destroy them quickly before they can deal any damage to your Golem. Next up, we have the hero Musketeer. At number 5, we have 2.6 Hog Cycle. This classic deck got heavily buffed because of the hero Musketeer. 2.6 Hog Cycle has been reliable throughout all these years because of how good its defense is. And now with the hero Musketeer's turret, the defense of this deck has been upgraded. Now, even if your opponent destroys the cannon, they still have to deal with the turret. Just make sure to space out your troops on defense to not give spell value to your opponent. On offense, the Ice Golem plus Hog Rider is your main push to deal damage. Keep cycling your Hog Riders fast using your cheap cards like Ice Spirit and Skeletons. When the opponent's tower has low HP left, you can start cycling your fireballs on their tower. At number 4, we have this extremely fast Suspicious Bush deck. This is a seriously annoying deck to deal with, having the suspicious bushes and skeleton barrels being spammed after every few seconds is very difficult to defend. You're constantly being forced into negative elixir trades because there aren't many cheap counters to these cards. The defense of this deck is carried by the hero Musketeer, whose turret can neutralize most pushes. Use the skeleton army and skeleton barrel to boost the skeleton king's ability. When you use the ability, your opponent will be forced to drop a spell on it. That will be your chance to hit your opponent with a highly offensive push using the skeleton barrel and suspicious bush. At number 3, we have Mortar Bait. This is a high spam deck. It relies on baiting spells with a goblin gang and spear goblins. Once the spells are out, use your skeleton barrel to get free damage. The mortar can be used for both defense and offense. When you get to your evolved mortar, use it on offense and make sure to protect it at all costs. Use your knight and musketeer to do so. Because you have the musketeer's turret for defense, you can use your mortars more often on offense. If your opponent deploys any ranged units to counter your mortar or skeleton barrel, nuke them out with a fireball and log. At number 2, we have Goblin Drill Poison Cycle. This is quite a cheap deck that relies on spamming goblin drills relentlessly on the opponent's towers. Use the snowball to push back any troops trying to counter your goblin drill. The bomb tower and musketeer provide a stable defense to the deck. Protect these two cards using the knight. Using the poison with a goblin drill can get you extra tower damage as well as eliminate the opponent's counter push. The fire spirit can be used to extract good elixir trades because your opponent will always need to respond with something. Overall, play this deck quite aggressively. At number 1, we have this unique Mortar Graveyard deck. This deck is really dangerous because your opponent will need to constantly switch between defending mortars and graveyard. Most decks won't have proper counters for both of these win conditions. The cannon cart and knight act as a tank for them. These cards can soak up damage, while the musketeer can take out the enemy troops. Use your guards to defend against heavy damage dealing cards like Prince or Pekka. The MVP of this deck is the cannon cart. It can get some sneaky damage if the opponent makes a single mistake. Play this deck passively and force your opponent into making errors. Next, we have the Hero Giant. At number 5, we have this Giant Witch deck. This deck relies on adding heavy offensive pressure by stacking elixir collectors. Once you have a pump down, start building your giant push. Use the Witch, Royal Ghost, and Mini Pekka behind the giant. Your push will be boosted by the Rage spell. Drop vines on whatever troops your opponent deploys to counter your giant. If they try to counter your push with swarms, keep your zap handy at all times. Play this deck aggressively and punish your opponent whenever you get the opportunity. At number 4, we have Giant Wizard Sparky. This deck is very aggressive. It relies on the synergy between its offensive cards and Tornado. On offense, when your opponent tries to counter your giant push with his own troops, tornado them all into the Sparky's attack. The Sparky deals extremely high damage and can nuke them out in a single hit. The Tornado synergy also works well with the wizard's splash damage, though not as deadly. Use your arrows and zap to take care of swarms that try to distract the Sparky. The Heal Spirit can heal the Sparky if your opponent drops any spell on her. Use the Mini Pekka to take care of tanks and to add pressure behind your giant. This builds a game-winning push. Since the Mini Pekka and Sparky can one-shot cards, even a single mistake from your opponent can cost them. At number 3, we have Giant Magic Archer. The Magic Archer just got buffed and is back in the meta. During your offense, if your opponent drops troops right in front of their towers to defend, use the Magic Archer to line up his shots on both the troops and the towers. Before your opponent can react, the Magic Archer would have already gotten a lot of damage. Use the Miner to snipe ranged troops and buildings. The Zap and Log can clear swarms trying to counter your Giant and Mini Pekka. Rely on consistent chip damage with this deck, and always keep your opponent reacting to your own plays. At number 2, we have Giant Graveyard. The Giant plus Graveyard combo is incredibly hard to defend, with no proper counters in the game. The Giant is tanky, while the Graveyard's RNG makes it impossible to defend the push efficiently. When you use arrows and snowball with this push too, it's basically tower down every single time. The Bowler is an anti-meta card, which can defend against popular meta cards. Use him with a Witch and minions to take care of your opponent's offense. Play this deck aggressively, but make sure you're not getting into negative elixir trades. At number 1, we have Giant Double Minions Sparky. This deck is really annoying to face because of the double minions. When you use either the minions or the minion horde on defense, your opponent is forced to respond with a spell of some kind. But as soon as they drop that spell, you use your other minion's card. Now they won't be able to counter it and you can build a big counter push. The Sparky and Mini Pekka adds more pressure on offense. They are great tank counters too. Alternatively, you can save these cards for your push and use the Skeleton Army instead for defending against tanks. Just make sure to never drop both the minions and the minion horde together because that's way too much spell value for your opponent. Finally, we have the Hero Knight. At number 5, we have this Mortar Skelly Barrel deck. The Hero Knight pairs really well with both these cards. He can redirect opponent's troops towards himself, thus allowing your Mortar and Skeleton Barrel to deal damage freely. Use the Musketeer and minions to defend against air threat, while also protecting them with the Hero Knight. The minions are useful because they can force out a small spell from your opponent, which leaves them with no counters to your Skeleton Barrel. Play this deck patiently, get good trades, and try to protect your mortars. At number 4, we have 3 Musketeers Battle Ram. This deck is very strong in the meta right now, especially because of how broken the 3 Musketeers are. The Hero Knight pairs very well with them because he can protect them from enemy troops that deal heavy damage. He also has great synergy with the Battle Ram, as he can redirect the Battle Ram's counters towards himself. The Monk can deflect projectiles, thus allowing you to counter ranged units. Since 3 Musketeers are expensive, make sure to stack as many Elixir Pumps as possible. At number 3, we have Goblin Drill Demolisher Spam. This Goblin Drill deck has been around for some time, but it's trending now because of the Hero Knight. Pair the Drill with the Hero Knight and use his ability. His ability will distract the enemy troops from the Goblin Drill and force them to attack him instead. This allows your Goblin Drill to deal a lot of damage. The Snowball further gives a tough time to your opponent because of its synergy with the Goblin Drill. The Evolved Tesla is your main defensive card and it's really good against most win conditions. At number 2, we have 3.0 Expo Cycle. The Expo got some indirect buffs recently. The cannon's barrage damage no longer kills the archers, and the Hero Knight is a good card to pair with the Expo. Protect the Expo with your Knight and Tesla, and use your Evolved Archers to quickly destroy enemy troops. Even a few seconds Expo lock can win you the game easily. Once the enemy tower is low on HP, start throwing fireballs at it while constantly defending. Expo's defense is really top-notch, and if you decide to defend all game, no deck is really breaking through. At number 1, we have Graveyard Control. This deck features the annoying Graveyard paired with a Hero Knight. He really has the best synergy with Graveyard. Because of his ability, the enemy troops are gonna get distracted and won't attack the Graveyard skeletons. The Knight and Graveyard are one of the 15 most broken card combos in Clash Royale. But what are the others? To find out, click on this video.